Yeah, you don't have to drive on them, guys.
Just all the paperwork we have for IT committee to order.
Yeah.
To approve the agenda.
We're not on the roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have, I'll make a motion.
Motion, we need a second.
I'm not even gonna go this way.
I made a motion.
No. All
Oh, then I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. Are there any public comments? Seeing none. Larry Mungian.
Nothing new on the commercial policy, on the cyber policy. The applications are in, we're waiting for the quote to come back. And that's basically about it. It's been pretty quiet on claims lately, so we haven't heard anything from the county side. That's pretty much about all we have. Cyber, if you guys have been seeing the news, it's taken a new turn with the AI. I just attended a conference and it's like the Wild West now. They're getting into our email. So hopefully, I'm sure you guys are working with your computer guy to school you on this new Outlook scam is on the email. And the only reason I bring it up is that we got hit last week and I got one yesterday. And I recognized it because I happened to be in a staff meeting where everybody got it. And it was from a local vendor that we have. So how it works is that Microsoft, this company acts like they're Microsoft, and it comes in and you don't recognize that there's a change in the email. And it'll say Microsoft-support.com. And then it looks like it's all legit. It's got their logo. It makes you want to sign back in. Once you sign back in, then they have it. So anything coming in or going out is affected. So if I'm emailing you and it's through the dark web, then it looks like I'm legit, but it's not. So it affects everybody that comes in and out. And so what it's doing is trying to get you to click on a link that can drag you even further down. And so that's something to keep aware and just to bring it to your attention that it's actually something that we actually had happen to us. One guy actually did click, and it's a pretty big deal. So hopefully you guys have that all checks in places. But cyber it's getting out of hand with this AI is what's causing it.
Can you supply us something so we can give it out to our employees?
Absolutely, yeah. I will email Jill what that latest threat is, and it was so bizarre that I just attended the meeting, and then the following week it happens to one of our guys. So it's new, they found it, and all of a sudden it's happened. And then yesterday, it was a local company that we use out of Paxton is where we all got the email from. It looks like it's our vendor, but it's not. And then the way you can look at it, send us an email, is it'll say customer-support.com for Microsoft. But there's 3 P's in the support, or there might be missing a letter or adding a letter or adding a dot, right? It's very, very tricky. So, and obviously that's driving the cost of cyber through the roof because the events now, personal events, commercial events, municipal, this is the most activity we've seen in cyber since we've been here. So just making you aware, I'll send that out to you. Other than that, when I get the quote, I hope to have the quote for the cyber next month, and then I'll present the proposal next month for the quote.
What's the cyber quotes been doing so far this year that it jumped up a bunch?
They're extremely high. They're in proportion. It's like property insurance to hail. You know, like the higher the claim ratio in that zip code or in the municipal or in the fire districts or whatever it is, the more the claims, the higher the risks, so the premium drives up as well. I have no idea where it's going to go, but it's a real thing. You know, it's a staggering number of the scam amounts that have been taken. You know, from just normal people.
Does your firm take into consideration all the monies that we spend to help try to fight this battle?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and when we send that application, when I first did the cyber here, most of the application was filled out by your company that uses, all your firewalls and everything. So that, he answered a lot of those questions that they're asking. And the reinsurance company for it is Chubb. So, like, we're a good company, we're safe, and they're the latest, greatest of what we have. So it's an excellent company to work with, and we're just trying to keep on top of it. But as soon as I get that proposal on it, and then I will send a message to about what we have to us. Okay. Thank you all.
To the order.
Yes, all right, guys, well, I'm happy to report, I got our most recent medical loss ratio report. And we are, last month it was down to 80%, which is bringing the overall medical loss ratio to 126 right now, which is good. We were at 139 last month, now we're at 126. We did have 2 large claimants fall off. The largest one was it ended at 447,000, no longer on the plan, so that claim has fallen off. And then our other large claim for 60,000 is also no longer on the plan, so they have fallen off as well. So this is good. We're bringing that medical loss ratio down, so we're looking good for renewal.
I think we'll be down, said a few minutes ago, maybe down to the 80s.
So we're down this last month. We went from last month it was 139%. Or 2 months ago. This last month it was 80%. So we are going down.
I thought you mentioned a dollar amount at like 2 meetings ago, what you were hoping we would get down to.
A percentage. I'm hoping we're down to a dollar amount for.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just percentage wise. We want to be near the 80s
Okay.
for our medical loss ratio at renewal time, because that means we'll have a really good original renewal that comes out, and then I'll always negotiate that down.
Where are we at now, though? Sorry.
You're at 126 overall,
126%.
126%.
Right. You think we'll be down in the 80s like it's.
I'm hoping we do. With these 2 large claims that have just fallen off, that's gonna help. This last month ran at 80%, so the month prior was at 139. So overall, we're at 126, and if we can get closer to 80, that would be great. Even if we're under 100, that's really good too. Okay,
You mentioned a claim for 400 some
447,000.
for one single claim, but it's fallen off. So what does that mean and how does that?
That person is no longer on the plan. So it's no longer, they're no longer paying on that claim. So going forward, they don't consider that because it's not part of the claims that are being paid out in the report.
And my person is not on the policy anymore because why?
Sometimes
That's
you
it.
can't say stuff.
Right, so that's it, but we can't get into that.
Okay,
They moved on. They're out of plan.
I figured.
Any questions?
Thank
All
you.
right, you guys have a great day.
All right. Go to department head. Start with health department. Health department.
Sure, well, financially, we're at a lower end of our revenue for this time of the year, which is normal. We have exciting programs that we're doing. We're gonna start with virus surveillance. We're starting the tick surveillance program, which is new for us. Excited about that. And we're currently working on our I-plan renewal, 5-year county health plan, if you will. The public, and all of you will see surveys about that we're gonna ask you to fill out. Please encourage you to fill out those surveys and then get all your friends and family to take that survey as well. It gives us good data. In terms of finances, looking forward, in July, when the full Board of Health meets, they'll be starting to review our budget. So July, I present a budget to them. In August, they vote on the budget. I think we're right along when the county starts to look at their budget, but maybe just like a month or 2 ahead. I'm not sure in terms of how you guys, it seems like we're always about a month or 2 ahead. But if the county is requesting things from the health department, which you guys have for the past couple of years, if we can get that information soon, so we can write it into our budget to consider it, that would be great. Usually when we receive requests from the county board for the past couple of years, it comes after our budget has already gone through our process. So
So what kind of a deadline would you like for that?
If you can give it to me, if you can give me numbers at your next finance committee meeting, I think that'd be great. That'll give me enough time to consider it and put it into a presentation for the Board of Health as part of the budget. So that'd be great.
That gives us something to shoot for.
Yeah. But that's about it for me, unless anybody has any specific questions.
It looks like it.
I'm just going to repeat what I announced at the tax committee meeting, which is on April 26th. The Department of Revenue sent the certificate of final equalization factor to the county clerk, and we received a 1. So that's good news, means there will be no changes on the tax bill as a result of anything the assessment office did or did not do. That's all I have.
Questions?
Jill?
Continuing work on the audit, working through some of the grants, now. Tina just provided me, from the health department, just provided me with, her reimbursements, so I have to go through those yet. We are also getting ready to send out notifications again for animal control, which we'll see an uptick in, revenue coming in from that. And also, I just renewed or applied to renew the animal control license. It's $100 a year. So hopefully we'll get that by June, as it expires at the end of June. What else we got? Bernie is going to be here next month. He couldn't make it. He was coming today, but then something came up, he couldn't make it. And as far as IT goes, we were talking about additional server space for the DevNet project that Mia has going on, as well as instead of renewing Microsoft 2021 licenses, I don't know if you guys remember, a few years ago, we had to replace all the Microsoft licenses with 2016. Well, we're already at 2021 that we're gonna have to go to. Going to Microsoft 365 instead, because those licenses, even though they cost about $1.50 more, they transfer over to all different devices. So like I would only need 1 license for my desktop and laptop. So that's something we've been talking about too. And then gearing up to get ready to assemble budget worksheets for everybody. Got it?
I hired a new employee, on Monday. Oh, okay. Her name is Megan Fink. She has shown up for the past 3 days, so I think hopefully we'll be able to keep her. Like I said, so might also be getting caught up on bank recs and stuff like that in drainage districts. And then we had the, solid waste CD came due on Monday, and I transferred, I think there was like 255 in there. I took out close to 10,000 out of it to put in for cash, since we will probably still be doing the recycling program with Watsika every year, so that way we actually have some money to do that. Since that's, I presume that's what that CD was there for, to pay for. But other than that, and I got it set up back for another year for like 4.74% for a 1 year, 3-year portfolio.
Did you see where First Trust came out with a new CD proposal that allows you to deposit, 15 months deposit? I think it's 4 times in that time, and also withdraw with no penalty.
Okay.
You might want to just see what's up with that.
Yeah, I will check it. We've got some other CDs coming due. I've got 2 or 3 throughout the year. I took out $2 million and put some in like 6-month CDs. I think I have 2. I have $1 million in 1-year CDs, $1 million in 6-month CDs. So when those come due here, I think they'll be due here in the next month or so. I'll look into that with First Trust.
They're flexible on ins and outs, and they're paying a a pretty good percent.
Okay.
And
Most of the ones I've got, I was getting over 5.15%, so I'll check with First Trust and see what they're doing.
it won't be that much, but it gives you
Right.
flexibility, right? Yep, good.
Yeah.
Extension sheets are going out to taxing bodies. Hopefully they'll be in the mail today, but it might be tomorrow morning that they go out. So we have a due date for those coming back on the 20th, and then it'll be a couple days that we'll need to wrap up extensions. So we should be rolling to Kurt, I would say, before the Memorial Day weekend. So then they'll be able to get their part of the process done. Jill mentioned Bernie not being here today. I was going to harass him. Still waiting to get hooked up with the CrowdStrike that we had talked about as far as the endpoint detection for email, for any kind of internet, for any kind of threat that comes in. We pay for something in my office because we're required to have the endpoint detection. But if we get hooked up with CrowdStrike, which is free through the state of Illinois, they will cover the entire county rather than just my office, and it's free and won't have to pay for it. So that's one of my complaints, I guess, is that I want to get that hooked up. So anyway, hopefully Bernie will be able to get that hooked up.
And they've been, does he knows he needs to get it done already?
Yeah, we talked about it a year ago and he had started the process and hasn't been finished yet.
I guess we'll let you go, Kara.
As long as Brian was done. This week, May 5th and 11th, is National Correctional Officers Week. We did purchase one additional AED for the courthouse. Over there, we got the one in the box in the hallway down here. So they're more accessible. So we've got an AED on the second floor and the first floor. I was able to get 2 boxes from T&D Metal. They built the boxes, provided them to us free of cost. So we've got those mounted upstairs and downstairs at the courthouse. We also have the Narcan in there. Eric was able to get some stickers from the Kankakee County Health Department that identified that the Narcan is available in those boxes. We had an open position in corrections. We hired Officer Eric L. from here in Watsika. C.O. Longfellow is progressing through the training very well. He'll be graduating June 7th. We have added some part-time correctional officers to ease the burden of the overtime. This coming Wednesday, May 15th, is going to be the final day to turn in applications for the deputy testing. We'll have the physical agility testing on the 18th, and then following that is the written test here on June 1st. We have to have that as a process to have a list to hire from. So from that written testing, they go to the medical board interviews. Continuing to work on grant funding for projects. STARCOM still in the process of building out the radio channel list, and that's something that's going to be used for years in the future. So we want to make sure we do that, get that right, and make sure if the fire department would end up going with STARCOM, that's prepped and ready for them to step into that as well. We'll make a determination on the body cam manufacturer, what we're going to do within the next couple of months, so we can be prepared for January 1. We believe that we can have a person in-house do that body cam project as far as the dissemination and the FOIAs and all that. It may require a little bump in pay for that person, but I think it will be ultimately cheaper than hiring another person. So we'll work through that. I spoke with Sheriff Jefferson County at the Sheriff's Conference, and he had talked about their fleet management for their police vehicles, and he said that they go with Enterprise Fleet Management. They have been doing that for years. So I asked Deputy Brenner, who manages our fleet, to reach out to Enterprise. This is in preparation for the budget to see what would be our best options for purchasing squad cars. and keeping our squad cars on the road as opposed to having some that have, 180,000 miles. So, today we have Scott Perkinson. I knew I was gonna say that.
I get that all.
With us here, he's gonna kind of walk us through what Enterprise has as far as options. We've worked with Scott over the last couple of months to kind of hone in this plan of what it would look like if we leased vehicles through them. And that would, we would have better vehicles on the road and at lower mileage and hopefully reduce the costs. So.
Thank you. Let me pass on some information, guys. I'm looking forward to kind of going through high level, who we are, what we do, a little bit about myself and some other government entities that we work with here in Illinois and Northwest Indiana. So give me a minute, I just have a presentation I'm looking forward to going through with all you guys. Sure, if you could send this all out ahead of time too, they've probably reviewed a lot of this already, so I'll make sure to keep it high level and make sure we leave time for questions at the end. Yes, I have a few. Okay, I could read, sure, yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. My name is Scott Perkinson. I'm with Enterprise Fleet Management. I've been with Enterprise for 13 years, and as Sheriff mentioned, I've been working with MNFW for 2.5 months now to work through and collaborate on a fleet management program that would help the county lower their total cost of ownership. A little bit about Enterprise Fleet Management. You'll see on that first slide, we work with about 75 government entities across Illinois and Northwest Indiana, and about 1,200 across the country. You'll see in the top right, Iroquois County is a member of Sourcewell. If you're not familiar with Sourcewell, they are a purchasing co-op. Enterprise has been deemed the low-cost provider as a fleet management provider through Sourcewell. That being said, you guys are getting set prices through Sourcewell, which I'll walk through what those prices are for our program. In the board synopsis that I also provided, I gave some specific examples for some references. Obviously, the sheriff of Jefferson County being one, as well as the city manager and former chief of police at the city of Pekin. If there are any other references that you would like me to connect you with as we explore a potential partnership, I'd be happy to do so. A little bit about Enterprise Fleet Management. If you guys aren't aware, we are a sister company of Enterprise Holdings, who owns Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So that is essentially what our program is we're leaning on the infrastructure, expertise, and the philosophy that Enterprise has built through our rental car division. And that starts with buying vehicles in the most cost-effective way, running them for the ideal holding pattern, which is going to help drive down operational expenses, maintenance, and fuel, and turning vehicles over and selling them before they start to cost more money to maintain and while they still hold a significant resale value. Part of the partnership, we see this as a long-term strategic partnership. The county will receive a dedicated account staff that will meet with them at least 3 times a year to continue to provide ongoing consultation, data analysis, recommendations on vehicle selection, and of course, ongoing recommendations on when to replace vehicles for the Sheriff's Department. That being said, the decision to replace, order, acquire vehicles is always going to be the county's decision. We're just going to give you guys as much recommendation and analysis as possible to make those decisions. You'll see on the next slide, where is the state of the fleet today for the Sheriff's Department? I spent a great deal of time learning about the fleet and, the processes that you guys have in place to manage the squad cars for the sheriff's department. As you guys may already know, that fleet is about 22 vehicles. And you'll see the average odometer for those vehicles is about 80,000 miles on the odometer. That has been driven down due to the 8 vehicles that you guys purchased last year. But you still have approximately 9 vehicles that have over 100,000 miles. And as Sheriff alluded to earlier, there are 5 vehicles that have over 150,000 miles. Our goal, our common goal with you and Enterprise is to drive down that age and odometer in the fleet to operate a more cost-effective fleet of vehicles, as well as providing safer and more reliable vehicles that are on the road on a significant amount of time for these patrol officers. As it stands today, as I've learned that there are a fair portion of vehicles that are shared between 2 police officers. So part of our goal in the first year would be to put an additional 4 vehicles into the fleet. So you would no longer have to share 1 squad car across those deputies. That would be a huge shot in the arm for the county because that vehicle would be driven instead of 35 to 40,000 miles a year, that vehicle would then be driven 20 to 25,000 miles a year. Less maintenance, and obviously, be able to cycle that vehicle in a shorter amount of time. The other part of some of the other key points on this fleet profile is the average holding pattern today for the county, for the sheriff's department's vehicles, is 8.5 years. Our goal is to continue to provide ongoing consultation and find that and drive down that holding pattern to anywhere from 5 to 6 years, which will, as a result, lower your total cost of ownership for maintenance and, of course, for fuel. A little bit about Enterprise on the next slide. A little bit about our full-service fleet management program. It does start with acquisition, so we would assist the county and the sheriff's department with acquiring vehicles. We're going to give you the ability to order vehicles directly from the manufacturer and work with any manufacturer. Part of acquiring vehicles is proactive planning, and we would need to plan ahead to order vehicles directly from Ford, GM, or Ram. But that does provide a significant cost savings on the front end of the vehicle. By factory ordering, you're going to be saving anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 on that vehicle. Due in large part is you're going to be receiving that vehicle at a factory ordered invoice cost. Also, you're going to receive confidential incentives that are unique to government entities, where you would see this year in particular, there's a $2,500 confidential incentive for the Ford Utility Police Interceptor, which Enterprise does pass 100% of those incentives. The other details into the acquisition is we're going to give recommendations on best holding pattern, best total cost of ownership, and the county can decide what make and model they want to go forward with when ordering vehicles. Obviously, it does take proactive planning. The model year 2025 police interceptors are open for ordering, and we can spec those out exactly how the sheriff's department would like those spec'd out. In regards to financing, it is a lease program. Our lease is not your typical dealer lease. It'll mirror a typical vehicle finance. There are no over-mileage penalties. There is no wear and tear fees. The most important part about our lease is the county reserves all the rights to equity in that vehicle. So when it comes time to sell that vehicle, we charge a flat $400 fee that would just cover the administrative costs to sell that vehicle on your behalf. Whatever the resale proceeds are for those vehicles, that goes back to the county. In most cases, our partners take those resale proceeds and apply it towards the next vehicle behind it. In turn, driving down the monthly payments on that next vehicle, and also creating a replacement budget by selling vehicles while they still hold equity and have a large percentage of buyers on the secondary market. A couple of different things can happen at the end of the term. We're going to use that term length based off of the annual miles and as a trigger point to decide what to do with that vehicle. Option one, as I already mentioned, we order a replacement vehicle and we sell the old vehicle and apply the proceeds towards the next vehicle behind it. Option 2, maybe the vehicle didn't drive as many miles as we anticipated, or you have the ability to run that vehicle longer. Enterprise would continue to manage that vehicle on your behalf, and we can assess to replace that vehicle another time. Option 3, you can take title of that vehicle and own that vehicle outright. Enterprise also is going to help manage the license title administration process for any of these new vehicles to the program. We also have the ability to help facilitate and manage the logistics and upfit of the aftermarket customization for these squad cars. As many of you already know, it costs a significant amount of money and time to upfit new squad cars. Enterprise does this for many government entities, and we have a large network of vendors that we can lean on to help us spec these out exactly how you guys want them. Deputy and I actually sat on a consultative call with one of our upfit coordinators where we mirrored exactly how you guys upfit these vehicles. You'll receive Enterprise's costs for parts and labor, and we will facilitate the entire process. The other added benefit to the county is while this vehicle is being upfit, while we're waiting for it to be built, the county doesn't pay for that vehicle. We do not charge any interim interest. So you won't start paying for the vehicle until it's delivered to the county completely road ready and able to go out on a patrol. We do also have maintenance programs, which is an optional service. If the county decides to enroll in our maintenance program, the cost of that program is $6 a month per vehicle. It is an outsourced maintenance program, very similar to what the county is already doing today. Those vehicles would then go to those outsourced maintenance vendors. Enterprise would look and approve and audit the work to make sure the county's vehicles are getting the right work at the right time at our negotiated cost for parts and labor. The other important part of that maintenance program, if the county does decide to enroll in it, is the data. All of the maintenance we're going to track by unit and have historical spend by unit, and that's going to float into a client website. So it's going to be available for the county and the sheriff's department to review, but also gives your account team the ability to review that data. And as we continue to make fleet planning and recommendations, we have all that maintenance data to make further recommendations on when's the right time to replace these vehicles. In regards to fuel, our fuel card partner is the same fuel card service that the sheriff's department is already using today. So WEX is our fuel card partner. So it would integrate right into that same technology that's part of our program. Out of the interest of time, accident risk management, telematics, I'm not going to spend too much time on that today. The county can insure the vehicles the same way they're insuring the vehicles today, just need to be listed as additional insured across page. Telematics, we do have a third-party partner called Geotab. If the county is interested in learning more about telematics in regards to tracking and monitoring driver safety, idle time, that's something we can talk about down the line. Driver safety, the biggest component for our partnership with the county is maintaining a newer fleet where safety features are more common and the age of the vehicles are lower, thus creating a safer fleet for the sheriff's department. And last but not least, for the entire wheel of service is resale. Enterprise sells more vehicles than any entity in North America. Part of us helping the county is selling the vehicles at the right time, but it's also the proper channels. As I know today, like many other government entities, the county is selling most of their vehicles either to private buyers or to gov deals at the auction. Enterprise goes to the auction about 10 to 15% of the time. The other 85 to 90% of the time, we're selling our vehicles directly to dealers, where we're going to get a better return and avoid the high auction fees. That obviously is important for the county because that equity is yours. The same team that we have that sells the vehicles for our fleet management customers are the same people selling the vehicles for our rental fleet. So we have skin in the game, so it's important for us to make sure that we're selling the vehicles for the maximum return. We'll provide all the transparency into what those vehicles sell for, and that, again, those proceeds go back to the county. A little bit about acquisition we talked about already, but the goal there is to factory order as much as possible. If we do have to go through dealer inventory, which we will do about 20% of the time, if a vehicle gets a total loss or we have to get an immediate need, Enterprise does have a large vendor network that we can still get a strong purchase agreement for the county if we need to buy a vehicle on stock. In talking about the lease, I get this question a lot. I think we're going to be very transparent about all the pricing and everything that goes into the lease. But the open-ended equity lease, there's two components to our lease. One is an interest charge. That interest charge is based off the 3-year treasury rate plus 350 basis points. As of today, that interest rate is, I believe, 8.25. That interest rate is fixed for the term and will lock in on the day of delivery. The other component of our lease charge is a management fee, and this is just the cost of having a dedicated account team and the technology that comes along with it. That management fee is 0.10% of the delivered cost of the vehicle. So if we have a $50,000 vehicle, your management fee would be $50 a month. I did provide a replacement plan, and I know the sheriff had shared that with you. Before we dive into the proposed broken replacement plan, I did want to pause for questions.
Where is your maintenance center?
So we don't have enterprise branded maintenance centers. Our maintenance vendors are going to be major dealers and repair centers that are part of that network. So your local dealers, Raleigh, Ram dealership, Ford dealership are a part of our vendor network.
Now, I was going to say, forgot. Okay.
So just a general question.
Yes.
Are we looking at this because we can save money? What is the overriding reason that we should do this cumbersome for your department to manage these vehicles? Or is it strictly dollars and cents here that we're talking about?
I think it's more dollars and cents. Doug does a great job of managing and trying to getting the best deal possible when it comes to oil changes, any parts replacements. So he does a fantastic job. So we can go with the management, fleet management portion of it, or we can opt to do our own maintenance. As far as the acquisition of vehicles, we know how much it costs to go to Raleigh's to get the vehicles. We know how much it costs to outfit. We're going to provide those numbers as well to kind of get apples to apples, just to make sure that we would be getting the best deal. Ultimately, it'd be great for all the deputies to have their own squad. That way you reduce the mileage, you reduce the maintenance costs on those vehicles, and we're able to jump and go as a whole department if anything were to happen. So dollars and cents, yes, that is the primary reason we're looking at this, because you can grow the fleet in a larger scale for less money, and you know what that price is year to year.
And then specifically, you mentioned you would get the vehicle at factory invoice cost. Do we get that now when we purchase a vehicle? For instance, does it get government?
It's set at a pretty much, like, we have state bid pricing on our vehicle purchases. And it's pretty much across the board the same that I've seen. I haven't yet seen specific pricing on what cost compared to our cost. So that's something that we will take into consideration, obviously. But it's usually across the board with the state bid. They kind of give it. There may be $100, $200 different fees that different dealerships knock off. Enterprise may have something as well. I'm not sure how that works, but that usually is how state bids work.
Yep, to finally, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm just going to piggyback off that. What this would allow the county to do, instead of just leveraging off the state bid pricing and the dealers that are awarded those state bids, we're able to go directly to the manufacturer and get essentially the same price, if not lower, because we're going to spec them out exactly how you guys want them at a factory ordered invoice price versus market suggested retail price with the state bid discount. We then apply for incentives on the county's behalf through whichever manufacturer we go through. In this case, if we did go through Ford this year, and the reason why we discussed going through Ford is improved fuel efficiency. It's about a 3 mile per gallon difference in fuel economy for the Ford Utility Interceptor versus the Tahoe. But we would then apply for those incentives. We would get about a $2,500 discount off the factory order invoice cost if we ordered correctly. Then those vehicles are then built and then delivered, courtesy delivered to a local Ford dealer. The maintenance, again, can continue to be outsourced, whether you guys decide to go on our program or not. But it gives us flexibility year over year. Maybe next year it's not Ford, maybe we get a better incentive through RAM. Or the following year. It just gives the county more options because we're going directly through the manufacturer opposed to just the 1 or 2 dealers that are awarded that's needed.
I thought you mentioned in the same sentence, enterprise and service center. So where is that located?
So we don't, similar to
Well, I know,
discussion.
that's what you said. but
Yeah.
You said in your earlier statement, I thought you said about, you implied they were up north.
No,
To repair, or for the repair facility?
no, my apologies if I caused
Okay,
you
no
confusion.
problem.
Yeah, we don't have any enterprise branded facilities to support our rental infrastructure as well as our fleet management customers. We have approximately like 80,000 shops that are a part of that network. So they're all major dealers.
So is there, that's, okay, so there's 80,000, is there in Iroquois County, those?
Trolley's, the local.
Well, but as far as body shop, in case a deer jumps out in front of the sheriff's car.
Great question. So those maintenance shops would just be for repair maintenance. So for preventative maintenance, non-scheduled repairs, body work, that would be still handled.
Sure.
Yes,
Good.
clarify.
Second thing is, I think we're tax exempt when we buy things from the dealerships, correct?
Yeah.
If we're leasing from you, are you able to be tax exempt, or you,
Absolutely. Yes, there would be no sales tax.
even when you buy them?
Their tax exempt would also apply through our program.
And then looking at all this data, you know, I come from a GM family. This is just kind of how we work. My dad has had one Ford in his lifetime. But in looking at the data and talking to the patrols, going to the Ford Interceptors does make sense from a financial standpoint and a patrol standpoint. They're easier to maneuver than the Tahoes. The Tahoes are getting bigger and bigger. So it's a 4-point turnaround instead of a 2-point. So it takes a lot for me to say we're going to switch to Fords, but I just want to let you know that, well, it's really tugging at my heart. But,
When you mentioned selling the vehicle, does the county have a say in what that price is, or does enterprise determine that when it's time to sell?
Great question. So the county can decide to either sell them on their own, or we can help facilitate that sale. We'll obviously let the county know exactly what that sale price is, and we'll have the final say on that. The only, I think I mentioned it earlier, but while we're on the topic, all we charge is a $400 flat fee, and that essentially is to cover the administrative costs to sell that vehicle on your behalf. So yes, you're always gonna have the decision on, do we want to replace it? And then we're gonna provide the transparency on what that sale price would be.
And on one of these boards, it's got license, title, and registration, so enterprise would handle that when the vehicle's purchased. And then is that an ongoing thing for the life of the vehicle?
Absolutely, yes. So we would continue to manage the renewal process as well.
And then the EFM fuel card, what exactly are we talking about there as far as the fuel card? How?
so we have BP fleet card right now. So we're able to purchase fuel anywhere, Casey's, Marathons, BP, and I believe we do get the 5%.
Get a rebate. Yep.
So we're still doing that. It's worked out very well. We used to have a BP card and a Casey's card and a Shell card. It was a pain. You had to keep tracking those cards down. We have had in the last month a few issues with that BP card to where the payment is applied or the payment is sent. They can see it in their system, but it's not applied. So they shut our card down. But I was able to get some cards at Pence's to where we can get fuel at Pence's 24/7. So we've got that fixed.
So basically, it's one product that works everywhere people purchase vehicles.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
That works well.
the WEX partnership, the benefit there would be through Sourcewell, there's no card fees. And then you guys receive the same ability to fuel up anywhere. You would have the option to do a tri-branded card where ExxonMobil would give you 5 cents per gallon, and there's a few other participating gas stations that give you per gallon rebates, Casey's being one of them. And then obviously it'll be assigned to each officer, so you know who's filling up when. And then there's the data. It's, you know, to be able to track that fuel spend, we'll also be able to look at fuel economy and then the overall fuel spend. You know, we do an annual review where your client strategy manager will look at your fuel spend, and you know, maybe there's a couple $1,000s of premium fuel. That's an opportunity to be like, hey, can you pass this down to the patrol officers? They don't need to be spending premium fuel on these vehicles, but it's a huge, you know, value add to be able to track that data on fuel spend.
Currently, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't the current vehicles we have heavy-duty radiators, heavy-duty transmissions, or something like that?
They're police package, we buy that, most of the time they'll have like, extra batteries, the alternator will have higher outputs, things like that, so they are beefed up.
Just like the
And these vehicles would have that?
Yeah, we would spec them out to be the exact same way, to mirror the same performance and safety that the current squad cars have. The only real difference that's changing is that when we do factory order, we're going to go straight to manufacturing. Typically, the lead times, which are normalizing, the last 3 years have been pretty crazy, but we're getting back to a more normal vehicle production market where the lead time for order to delivery is about 20 weeks for a vehicle. And then there's obviously some time there to update the vehicle.
How many weeks? 1 or 12?
20. The other, you know, big point of this is as the sheriff alluded to, is the cost and having a more predictable budget. The county is paying cash today, and it's a shift obviously from paying cash to leasing. The benefit of cash flow for the county to move away from paying cash to this open-ended equity lease model is going to allow us to be able to, one, replace more vehicles over an annual basis without shelling out $65,000 per vehicle for the vehicle and the outfit, but also to be able to maintain a more consistent replacement schedule. Whereas you saw on the fleet profile today, you know, you had a big replacement year in 2023 to catch up for those few years where it was very difficult to find a vehicle. What we want to be able to do is get out of those peaks and valleys, stay in a more consistent replacement schedule, and also be able to put those 4 additional squad cars into the fleet, which is going to obviously help for cost savings on the operational side, but also, I mean, there's, you know, the employees, the police officers are going to be happier guys. To have their own squad car and not have to, you know, share it with somebody else. I mean, I think I can say that it's going to be an added benefit to the patrol officers to be able to have their own.
And so the 8 point, what was the figure, the percentage for the interest?
Correct. So we use our interest index is the 3-year treasury bill plus 350 basis points. So if a vehicle were to deliver today, that's when the interest rate would lock in. I believe today that's 8.23%.
So if we're leasing a vehicle, then we're paying interest on what?
You're paying interest on the capitalized cost of the vehicle. So the county does have the decision if you want to put some money down to alleviate some of the interest burden, but we're taking that interest payment off of the delivered cost or capitalized cost of that vehicle. Other option, which is again we discussed a couple different ways to do it, is ultimately going to be the sheriff's department and the county's decision. You can also capitalize in the cost of the aftermarket. So opposed to that being an upfront cost like it is today, where you're paying, you know, anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 in cash to outfit those vehicles, we can cap that into the lease. The only credit requirement we have is any aftermarket over $10,000, we do require 50% of that. So in my financial analysis, I do show both the option to capitalize that in and one without. But the added benefit there, I think, to the county is to not have to pay for that vehicle for the entire time while that vehicle is being outfit. So regardless of what the county decides, I know efficiency, streamlining that is certainly an added benefit.
We do one car or 4 cars or 20 cars, is it still basically the same cost per car?
Correct.
There's no saving? So that way then the sheriff or Doug or whoever can do this, we can do a cost analysis of this proposal and then also our normal purchase.
Yeah.
And compare apples and apples.
I did provide like a preliminary analysis in what the sheriff sent over. Essentially if the county wanted to execute replacing 3 vehicles and adding 4 vehicles into the fleet, paying cash, I did incorporate the potential resale equity you would get in those 3 vehicles that you replaced. To pay cash, upfit the vehicles, and take into consideration the approximately $12,000 in resale equity per vehicle, it would be about $446,000 to replace 3 vehicles and add 4 in the current model you're doing today. If you did that through enterprise in the open-ended equity lease model, that upfront cost would be about $68,000, and that's just your 50% down payment for the aftermarket, and then you would have $155,000 in annual lease payments. So your total budget to replace, and this is for 5, I have that wrong. For 3 vehicles and 4, it would be $53,000 in the potential upfront costs if you decided to cap those in, and the annual lease payments would be $123,000. So total budget to replace 3 vehicles and add 4 vehicles into the fleet, you would be looking at $176,000. So
For how
approximately.
many years?
That's just, that would be the first year.
For how many years? What's the second year?
Yeah, I can certainly put that
So
together.
it's not the same, it's not a flat.
Well, yes, your payments would remain constant. It's a fixed rate for all 4 years of that.
There you go, 4
Yes,
years.
yes, yeah, 4 years.
Does that include the extra 50% on the outfitting that you said was?
The upfit would just be upfront cost. It wouldn't be part of the annual lease.
I thought you said that was the 50%.
That would include that capitalized into the lease, correct?
So the first few years would have this capitalized.
Just year one. Just year one, you'd have the upfit, the 50% down
Okay, because it said 50% down payment,
in year one.
so where's the other 50%?
Capitalized into lease. So that would be
Oh,
part of
the other
the
3
annual lease
years.
payments for the rest of the rest of the term of the lease. Okay. My apologies.
No problem. We definitely need a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I have a spreadsheet which I can get you guys, and we can dive into that in more detail.
Probably get the Doug to report on.
So this may have been touched on in the previous question, but generally speaking, right now we pay cash for any car we buy, no interest. And so if we're gonna pay, we have to pay whatever it is interest. Does the cost saving come because we don't keep the car forever when we sell it after 2 to 3 years? Is that the idea?
Yes.
I mean, that even though we're paying interest, there's still money ahead because we're not keeping the car for 8 years or whatever it might be.
What's the maintenance costs,
Yeah.
on a
Well,
vehicle
you're
that's
just-
170,000 miles?
What you're describing is essentially effective depreciation, because we're selling that vehicle after, in this case, if we're doing a 48-month lease term, we're selling those vehicles after 4 years. So what we paid into it and what you guys received in resale equity, that effective depreciation is gonna be lower than what you guys are doing today, and that's shelling out cash in year one and running those vehicles for anywhere from 8, 9, 10 years.
But even with the interest being paid.
And then the other part of it, as Sheriff alluded to, is as we drive down the age of the fleet of the vehicles, we're gonna continue to drive down the maintenance expense and the fuel expense, because we're running newer vehicles that are cheaper to maintain and are gonna get better fuel economy. Each lease, and if I didn't mention this earlier, I think it's important to note, each lease is written individually. So, you know, if we're writing leases off the squad cars and we know that annual mileage is gonna be 20 to 25,000, you know, those leases will follow, you know, that 48 month in a goal to get them at the end of the term at 100,000 miles. If there's other vehicles that are part of the sheriff's department fleet that aren't patrol vehicles that are maybe driving at a lower mileage clip, we can write those at a different lease term that aligns with that annual mileage.
What happens is the lease term is written and then the miles exceed what was in the contract.
Great question. At that point, you know, since you're meeting, you know, a couple times a year with your account team, you know, we might have the ability to either, you know, speed up or slow down, speed up depreciation, or we can pull that vehicle up a year and sell it maybe a year earlier because it's driving more mileage. But there wouldn't be any fees to the county. It would just be, what's that?
No penalties.
No penalties, correct. I mean, obviously, you know, the what would end up hurting would be, you know, we'd probably lose a little bit of resale because we're, you know, it's driving more annual miles. But that's the flexibility in the lease is, you know, not only can you run it longer past term, we also can, you know, take the opportunity in your situation that suggested we can pull the vehicle up a year early and sell it if it's driving more miles than we anticipated. A lot of really good questions, guys. Any other questions?
Yeah, we have the information for the cost for this, like the senior vehicle for the squad.
They do in the spreadsheet that you guys provided, but I can walk through that right now.
Just so that when they have a comparison, we just have.
Yeah, apples to apples.
I didn't hear what you were talking about, Doug, sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that you guys had the information in there that's just this is what the cost of the vehicle is, you know, that's what your whole cost of the vehicle
I
is.
didn't see any that I received, but maybe.
The sheriff sent it via email. I believe, so you guys.
It'll be on one of the tabs.
That one there. If you look at, I don't know if anyone has it in front of them, I can also come by and look at that or share it with you after the meeting, but the factory ordered invoice cost less the incentive for 2025 Ford utility interceptor is $48,717. If we were to handle and capitalize in the aftermarket, that vehicle would be $63,717. So if we put these vehicles on a 48-month lease term and the 50% down payment for the aftermarket, that monthly lease payment would be $1,436 a month.
That is with the EcoBoost, correct?
Correct, yeah, that's with the Ford EcoBoost engine that the sheriff and the deputy had mentioned would be a good fit and has been received well by the police officers. And it gives them an improved fuel economy as well. Really appreciate all the questions, guys. I obviously will make myself available to any of you if you have any additional questions. I can say with confidence that, you know, the county is a great fit for this program. And, you know, it's been a pleasure over the last 2 months working together with the sheriff and the deputy to customize and tailor a program. And, you know, we're going to continue to do that. And you know, I look forward to making this program get off the ground exactly how the county wants it. And you know, we have the shared goal in you know, trying to lower the total cost of ownership and improve some and streamline some operations in regards to the fleet for the sheriff's department. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That all you had, Sheriff?
Yes. Wouldn't have enough.
You never know. John, did you have anything? Okay. We will move on to claims. Anybody got questions on claims?
We had, looks like 2 charges for, hanky disposal for us, and then 2 charges also then for the month for the animal control. I'm just confused on why there's two charges.
It's a matter of when we got the bills in the mail.
One's $146 and one's $63.
Mhm.
So how, I'm just confused on, I thought we put that out for bid.
63 is for animal control and 146 is for here at the admin building. There was a additional charge for overflow of $6. That's why it's not the normal 140.
And then what's the $100 and the $220 charges also for the sheriff? Because the two I told you about earlier were from animal control of 146 and 63. And then there's two for the sheriff of 100 and 220. Is one the courthouse and one the administration center?
Yeah.
Then it's so confusing about the animal control of 146 and 63.
I think the 146 is here for the admin, it just didn't get changed in the description, it should say admin instead of.
Okay, yeah, I see the description, yeah.
And what's,
146 is for admin and the,
they take, one's the jail, one's the courthouse. So I guess that's the confusing part of the.
We've only got one dumpster.
yeah, they have one
For both
dumpster,
places?
but the problem is with KDP disposal, they haven't, they were sending their invoices and I don't know if it's a problem with them or the mail, but we weren't receiving them, so we had no payments for a couple months and now we're catching up. We should be completely caught up now. I did ask that they start emailing them instead of mail, and that way we can get them quicker.
And then we had a refund reimbursement for Aflac for a couple people, 3 people. What, is that just a burp in the system or?
That was, I received those checks from Aflac and confirmed multiple times because I didn't understand. When we switched from Aflac to a company called Assurity, which is essentially the same things, with 3 employees, just the time frame of changing their policies, they were issued a
It's
refund.
one
So
thing.
we got the check from Aflac, I deposited it, and then in turn cut checks to them.
I'll make a motion to pay.
For a second?
I'll second.
Aaron's,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Geiger,
Yes.
Watts.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody got any old business? Any new business? Charlie, would you like to adjourn?
Do you want to talk about it?
I had yeah, we can. I know at the policy and procedure committee, the salaries for certain elected officials were talked about, and I just thought that at this committee meeting, we could perhaps discuss it as well.
The question is what the pays are and what the pays are to be before the change by the policy and procedure committee. There's some confusion.
So you want to know what they're being paid now or what the proposed pay is?
Well, we just need to establish the correct amount so that we can, there's a question, I guess, from the people involved with the negotiations of how any changes of pay for elected officials are gonna be taken by the hourly people. And so we just wanna make sure, maybe before we leave, that we look and we don't upset the apple carts of all of our employees, to not be fair to them. And to start with that is coming up with what are the accurate past figures, present figures, and future figures for elected officials in today's question.
So you want to know what they're making currently?
Right, and there was information presented at the policy and procedure committee that conflicts with some information that
That we got now, which conflicts with more information that we got now.
I guess.
So we just wanna know
what the conflict is or
was that already pointed, well, the numbers are different on what people are being paid, so
So we just, yeah, we need help.
to make a decision, we need to know really what are the numbers before we vote on percentage increases.
So there's two or, you can probably clarify it easier.
The salaries for all the elected officials by statute are established by the county board, and they are recorded in the minutes of the county board, and they're not a penny more or a penny less. That's exactly the way it is.
Say that again, please. The last sentence of what you just said, they were in the minutes and.
They're recorded in the minutes of the county board meeting. For example, if you look back to the minutes from May of 2020 or April of 2022, you'll find I think it's 4 different resolutions that were adopted by the county board establishing the salaries that were needed to be established at that particular time for elected county officials. I think at that time it was for the county clerk, the treasurer, the circuit clerk, and the sheriff. The salaries that were established then are exactly what they're to be paid, not a penny more, not a penny less.
That's your chief.
In the case of the sheriff, it was modified because subsequent to that resolution, the state legislature passed a law saying that the sheriff had to be paid not less than 80% of the state's attorney's salary. So a resolution was adopted by the county board to cancel the one from 2022 for the sheriff and to establish a new one that conformed with the state law.
So the sheet that was distributed at the P&P committee meeting under Iroquois County elected official salary, I know you can't see it, but this was prepared by you, Jill, and so these numbers aren't correct. I think that's my God.
The same numbers that are in the county board minutes, and they are correct. If they're not the same numbers, then they're not.
Which one do you have a question on?
Looks like the coroner's got some questions, and the county clerk's got some questions, and then moving forward, the circuit clerk's got some questions. and-
What's your question about the county clerk? I've got the resolution that was passed for like the county clerk salaries, so.
What we want to do is just try to make sure whatever decision is made next Tuesday at the county board meeting is based on good information.
For sure, right,
And
so,
so we can talk after this, as long as we acknowledge that there's some,
well, we have to have a resolution prepared for the board meeting on Tuesday. So we actually have a resolution that is prepared based on the 5-4-4-4 for the circuit clerk
right,
and the 4 across the board for the coroner. So with, the circuit clerk salary currently is $67,550. So then we added 5% for December 1, 2024, 4% for December 1, 2025, 4% for December 1, 2026, and 4% for December 1, 2027, ending with $79,785.
in with what? There's just so many things. Can we affect that, change that resolution on Tuesday?
You'll be able to make whatever changes you need to, but we do have to have the resolution, like.
Agreed. It needs to be voted on that day.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. I can explain after the meeting. I just want to bring it to everybody's attention that I think, or we think that the figures presented that the policy procedure made their decisions on had some questions. And we also have questions on that percentage, how it affects the rest of the employees.
Sure.
And so we'd like to talk about that as a group. Yeah, if that's fair.
When you say talk about it
As a county board group, as a county board Tuesday.
Okay.
But we want to get the right information out. John has been very helpful to say, hey, it's the minutes that's what it is.
Well, the salaries are set by resolution. They actually weren't when Bill's salary was set the last time. But it's required to be a resolution or an ordinance. So when the 2022, when the sheriff county clerk, treasurer were beginning their term, and then they set the term for the 2 years for the circuit clerk. Those were all done by resolution, so they're spelled out exactly what the pay
And that-
is going to be.
Is that the same as the minutes, the John sliding, we think, or do we know?
It's a copy of the resolution into the minutes, so it's,
Then they should be the same, but
hopefully,
let's talk afterwards.
because we're going by the resolutions.
Ivana, you'd help, thank you.
Yes, okay.
So we will have a discussion.
If you still have questions and haven't had an answer for them. But yeah, it'll be on the agenda.
Thank you.
Any other new business? Motion to adjourn.
I'll do that.
Is there a second? There. All in favor? Aye.